Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to HyperTek Talks. We missed last week because, there's a lot more important things on the plate for our team members here, and that would be the Soul Hackathon and getting the final submission ready and handed in. We are now at that point where it's been created and handed in over to Soul and the teams there that judge everything. So now it's the hurry up and wait to find out who the finalists are out of the 1,500 teams that were there. We have a little bit later on the show, we're going to share the video of the actual submission. Once again, we are joined by our CTO of HyperonSol, HyperTek, to kind of go over it. There's just a few of you here. If you know the drill, can you do me a favor, guys? Let's retweet the space, give it a like, and Big Pope Vibration. I hope that's not your number, buddy. I'll get that off the screen. And hello, Canna and Adrian, Crypto Joe's. Great to see you. You know the drills, guys. Just give us a quick retweet. We're going to give a couple of moments here to build the space a little bit, get some numbers in here so we don't have to keep repeating ourselves. I hope you all had a wonderful Halloween for those that celebrate it or in regions that do. It's nice to be back in Vietnam. I was on holiday in Thailand. We were doing the previous streams, and I got right back in Vietnam in time for a typhoon. There's never a dull moment in my life. Macy, Bluebell, thank you so much for reposting the stream. And we also know when the markets are a little rough, a little red, engagement always tends to go down in these kind of things. I'm not worried about the numbers. I'm always worried about what the team is doing, what the team is building, and what's going on. And there's lots of news coming. So appreciate those that are here. Appreciate those that tune in every time we do this and that are along for the ride. It is the best time of the week. I absolutely agree. And it's been a moment since Adrian and I have been able to talk, and I'm looking forward myself to being caught up. We got 50 of you tuned in right now. If you're just tuning in, just give us a couple more moments. Give us a retweet. Let's get people into this space. We've got some exciting news. We're going to share the video that was submitted, and I'm going to break down what's going on in the markets and the market analysis. And if you have been watching our market analysis, 2 weeks ago, I called it pretty well, guys. And I don't, little spoiler, I don't think it's time to panic. Excited as always. Thanks, Crypto Joe's. And hey, excited for the stream today. Crypto Warrior, excited as well. I did a quick little look over the markets and a few things, and we got lots to talk about a little later. But I know we are blessed with Adrian's time, and he shows up every single time we do these streams, and that is unlike many other projects. Adrian, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm well, Pope. I'm well. Always well.
You're running on fumes, I reckon. Absolutely. You've been going nonstop for a little bit over 5 weeks, and you were saying just to me just before we went live, even though the submission has happened, the hackathon technically isn't over. You still got to work. What's that about?
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, we're building a product, and it's the hackathon was the impetus for that. We started building it on the very first day of the hackathon, but at the end of the day, there's still work to be done. So we're still working, because it's the hackathon wasn't the entire point. Obviously, that was the reason that we started, but we're trying to build a product, and we've got to keep working, keep shipping features until we can actually get it out into the world and then scale it into a real business. And that's always the end goal. And the hackathon was just a good excuse to get started. And obviously there's some good incentives there. We can win some money that can help us build. We can get network and all sorts of other benefits. So yeah, but at the end of the day, we're still building, always building.
Speaking of building, the numbers are building on the stream. If you're just tuning in, do us a favor, retweet it. We've got some exciting news to go over. We're going to catch up on what happened on the Time.Fun pitch. We haven't talked about that yet. Then we're actually going to see the video of the submission from the HyperTek team. And then we're going to get into some market analysis. So again, appreciate you all for being here, retweeting the stream. And at any point, if you guys, if you have any questions, however you're watching this, whatever platform you're watching this on, you can send us a comment and I can address it, put it up on stage for you and get those questions answered. So Time.Fun, for those that missed it or were unaware, we won an auction. There was the top 3 people. We paid $50K to be in first place. We went first. It was quite an incredible pitch. There's a few things that happened. Adrian, maybe you can tell us what happened there and the outcome, and how did you feel about it?
Yeah, well, I mean, like going into it, I was nervous as hell, to be honest. But the pitch itself, I think, went really well. We went into it wanting to get some good feedback, and I think we got exactly what we were looking for. At the end of the day, we pitched to Tolly, founder of Solana, and Mert, the founder of Helios, and Chow and Ansem, and we mostly got feedback from Tolly. We got some from Mert as well, and they were really pleased and excited about what we're building. We got some great feedback from Tolly on the technical side. He thought what we were building was really cool. He had a few questions that we were able to answer, and at the end of the day, what we're actually building here is something that he has an immense amount of expertise on, which is a big part of the reason that we wanted to pitch him in the first place, because he spent 10 years building the kind of systems that we're building right now. So he has a lot more experience than I do on that. So we figured that it would be great to get his take on it, to see if this is something that's interesting. Is it a viable approach? What kind of issues might we run into, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, we pitched him, and his feedback was great. He thought that what we're building is really cool. He even said that he would be keen to angel invest in the project. And some of the critical feedback he had was around the business model, which in terms of feedback we can get is amazing, because we're trying to build cool tech, but obviously we're trying to build a business, and he thinks the tech is cool, but the business model itself needs a bit of refinement, which is exactly what we went in for. We didn't want to go in and just have him blow smoke up our ass. It's like, tell us that this is great, we're going to be rulers of the universe. We need good critical feedback to tell us where we need to improve, and he gave us some insights there into how he thinks that the business model can be improved, which is really helping shape how we're thinking about moving forward into the future. He thought that the fact we've got some revenue behind our belt with HyperTek is an incredible achievement for a project so early.
100%.
But it's about turning that into like a really sustainable business, and that's the feedback we wanted, and it's exactly what we got. So it's cool to know that the tech is right and that the tech is interesting to him. But of course, now we need to do the hard work of figuring out how we can turn this into a sustainable business. And yeah, I mean, unbelievable feedback from my perspective. I couldn't ask for better, to be honest. Like, I would much rather him say that the tech is cool and the business needs refinement than saying the tech is shit, but the business model is good, because it's
Well,
not.
it's funny. It's funny you say that, because, well, a couple of things I want to address off. First off, thank you, Frank, for reposting the stream. We see you here every time. We're over 100 people. If you're just tuning in, we are talking to our Chief Technology Officer on HyperTek, and we're going over what happened on the Time.Fun pitch, and then we're going to be going over the hackathon, the video, and then we're going to get into my typical market analysis. You said when you started there that you were a little nervous. To be honest, buddy, it didn't come across that way at all. You always sound extremely professional, and you always make the complicated digestible. I am an absolute idiot when it comes to programming language, and trying to wrap my head around this. And I know when you and I talk, even on these streams and off these streams together, you make it easy to make sense. And that's a gift, because there's a lot of people that, you know, are in your field that can't do that. But for those that don't know, the time.fun pitch was great. It was great to get that feedback. It was great to see, you know, what they had to say and things like that. But our goal, what was really great, was the goal of HyperTek was really to get into the DMs. And we got a question here from Crypto Warrior. Did Tully hit the DMs afterwards? Yes, he did. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that, of what you're allowed to say, and what the goal really was of that pitch.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can't go into too much detail. Of course,
Fair.
there's some privacy there, but yeah, I mean, he was interested enough to DM us, and we've been in some conversation with him since, like offering our ideas on what our bigger plan is, because of course on the pitch we only had 10 minutes to pitch the whole thing, and we're doing so many different things that it's hard to cram that all into 10 minutes. So we very much focused on HyperStack, which is the product that we've been building throughout the hackathon. But we have a bunch more going on, so we're trying to elucidate on a lot of that. And really our goal is to get feedback, more critical feedback, and then directions that he thinks are exciting, and see if we can start to build on that advice and build something out that is not something that we can just make like a couple $100s on, but something we can scale a real business. Because at the end of the day, that's always been our goal for HyperTek. We want to take over this coin and really do something that's real, not just like pump a token on hype, but really build a business that produces revenue and sustains over the long run. But do it in this really Web3 native way. So getting feedback from the guy who's seen it all is exactly what we were looking for. We're now in conversation with him, and he's excited about what we're building, and has some good feedback for us. And we're going to go to Breakpoint in Abu Dhabi in December, and we'll
Nice.
be able to use that opportunity to connect with a lot more people. And of course, Tolly will be there as well. So we'll see if we can find some time in his busy schedule to have a conversation in person, to really get down to the nuts and bolts of what we're doing. But yeah, at the end of the day, as we said, our goal the entire time was to get feedback from guys that know what they're doing, all 4 people on the panel, but specifically because of the nature of the tech that we're building and Tolly's expertise, having his input is just so incredibly valuable for us, that anything that we could get, like even if we could just get, this is cool, and here's how I would approach it, that would have been amazing. The fact that we're now in a conversation with him is unbelievable, and we just have to get to work now. We can take on board the advice we got during the pitch, the advice that we're getting after the pitch, and use that to really start to build this empire that we're aiming after, and build out a bunch of different products, and one of them will work better than the others, and then we pivot into that more, and we can, this is just all typical startup stuff, right? It's at the end of the day, it's hard to decide up front what you're going to build and how it's going to make money. You have to just try something, see what works, then double down on things that do better, and kind of leave the other stuff behind. And that's the process we're under right now. And having people like Tolly to be able to give us advice is just immensely valuable for us.
Like I said, that was kind of your vision and the CEO MetaBlock's vision of spending that 50K, of, you know, just getting the attention. You were wanting to go into just to get that introduction, and it was very successful, and that was definitely like a tick on the roadmap, if you will. We have a question from Noir. It says, can you clarify what you mean by Tully angel investing? Will he be purchasing our token, or is it more of a direct funding for the team? I know we can't go into too much of that. What angel investing typically is like a VC, and it's towards the actual product and how that'll all roll down. One of the things I can comment on, understanding how the system works, pitching the token at that time would have been all the nails in the coffin. They're not here to, at this point in time, they don't care about the token. They care about the tech. And when you said you're building and doing these things in this time frame, you had to be very specific what you focused on, because you, with the hackathon, you also only had a set period of time to accomplish that. But as you said, much bigger vision, that the building doesn't stop, that it keeps going on. And I've heard you say before, you know, you're tackling a problem that is not only difficult, but quite necessary in the ecosystem. Can you maybe give us a couple of minutes synopsis of what that problem is? Because there's an expression that I actually shared with the team earlier, a little quote that came up again today, and it's, don't sell the product, show the problem it solves, and then the rest takes care of itself. So what is the problem that HyperTek is trying to solve? Because we now got just over 130 people tuned in. Thanks for being here. If you're just getting in, retweet the stream. We're going over what happened on the pitch, what's going on in the hackathon, our video submission, and then some current market analysis of what the fuck is going on in the markets. Adrian, so what is the problem you're trying to solve with all this technology?
Yeah, so the thing that we've built through the hackathon, what we're calling HyperStack, is really solving a problem for developers specifically, where if you're building on Solana, and we ran into this issue ourselves, which is how we know that it was a problem, is getting data off the blockchain. So Solana can be thought of like a big old database. It's just got loads of information in it, from all the transactions all over the blockchain, like trade information, games, NFTs, like whatever else people put on chain. It's just one big database, and there's no rules as to how you store that data. And it just gets stored as like ones and zeros, right? It's just raw binary data on chain. So if you're a developer who builds, like, let's say you've built Meteora, right? You're the Meteora devs, and you've got a web interface where you can buy and sell tokens. You need to get a bunch of information into that interface to show the user like their token balances. You need to know what's the likely swap rates that they would receive if they want to swap like 100 USDC into Sol. What rate are they going to receive? And then what's the trade history? What liquidity is in the pools? There's all this information that exists on chain, and you need to get that into your interface somehow. And the process to do that on Solana is not as easy as one would expect. In Web 2, it's fairly solved. We have databases, then we build APIs, and the API can reach into the database, get the information, and serve it back to you in a structured format that the interface can consume. That structured format doesn't really exist on Solana because all the data is spread out all over the place in what's known as accounts. And the typical process will be to fetch all of the different accounts you want. So for example, using our coin flip, each game stores data in maybe 7 or 8 different accounts to get all of the information that you need across the whole game. For a single flip, it's about 7 or 8 different accounts. So you have to pull all of those yourself individually and then bring them, like merge them together into the format that you want to use for your interface. And that's just a whole bunch of busy work. You have to set up infrastructure to do that. If you want that information in an actual like Web 2 database, you need to get it off the blockchain, stream it out. There's so many different complexities in that process. And that's just holding teams back in terms of, one, it's technically complex. So if you don't have the requisite skills, then you can't build the stuff that you want because that stuff is complicated. And 2, it's just time. It takes a bunch of time, engineering time, that you could be spent shipping products and shipping features for your users, but instead you've got to do this busy work. So the goal of HyperStack is to remove all of that busy work. We set it all up for you, and you pay us a monthly fee that will, like we basically we do that work for you, right? Like it's like a Web 2 SaaS, exactly. We're just pulling in that blockchain data. We're doing all of the kind of busy work of getting the information, structuring it however you need it, and then delivering it to you in the exact format that you need it in. so that you can just get on with building. And that's what HyperStack is in a nutshell, and that's what people would pay us for. And to kind of underscore the point previously about the investment, we're in this interesting zone right now where we're building a real business. So we do need some money because it costs money to run this. The infrastructure off chain to do all of this work is like going to cost a decent amount of money. Like we're thousands, probably tens of thousands of dollars a month. So we do need some money to get going on that. So like, of course, we need some investors who can help with that. But the ultimate goal for HyperStack is always that the revenue that we make and the profit that we make goes back into the token. So that because we're always like this community driven thing. And there's a bit of a kind of chicken and an egg problem, right? Like we all want the token to do well. We want the token to go up, of course. But to do that, there's two ways you can do that in Web3. One is you have a real business that's just producing revenue and the token goes up because you're doing buybacks or there's just some other bullishness around the token because of the success of the business. Or you can do it in the way that most meme coins do it, which is pure hype. And then it's just narrative driven and money's going to rotate out of the different metas and circulate between different tokens. And that's why we see these kind of pump and dump cycles. So we're very much focused right now on trying to build the business. We want to put the cart behind the horse, right? So if we can get a business that's producing real revenue, and we need to raise some money to do that. And when we do that, like we can build the business, we can build a really sustainable business, and then the revenue starts to flow. And as soon as that happens, the token takes care of itself over time. So that's really where we're at in terms of thinking about that. And what we're building here with HyperStack is a solution that we can sell to other developers to save them a huge amount of time and money. Like for context, it probably costs just for RPC provider $6,000 a year. Then you're probably looking at $5,000 to $10,000 additionally in like AWS to host all of this stuff, your database, your servers, all of that stuff that you need to handle all this stuff. And then the engineering time to actually set it all up and then manage that over time. Because if that infrastructure goes down, it's on you, right? If you use HyperStack, it's on us. But that's all we do is like manage that for you. So we're going to keep on top of that way better than you can. So you can just focus on your product. So that's really that's the problem. To underscore what you said previously, don't sell the solution, like sell like what is the benefit of the product. And the benefit to our users is a massive saving in time and a massive saving in cost, so that you can just ship your features, you pay us for that, and then we can scale that. And then now we have this infrastructure, we can build our own stuff on top of that. We can build more games like Coin Flip. We can build other games that are like more fun, more interesting, skill-based games. And then we can build like more stuff in the future that brings this all together. So we own the infrastructure layer, and that's making revenue. And then we build apps on top of that, and that generates revenue. And then the idea is that all of that revenue is obviously paying for our salaries and whatever, like a real business would. But then we're doing it in this kind of traditional Web3 way, where the money is flowing back to the community in some way. And that's always been the vision, and we're still working on that every single day and hustling hard to produce that kind of what I would call like a modern Web3 business, where it's not just pump and dumps, it's real revenue.
We're just over 400 people. I'm going to do a quick summary of what we've been talking about if you're just tuning in. Thanks again, not only for your time, Adrian, but for everybody that is here. It's the reason that Adrian and I come here every Thursday, minus the last one because of the hackathon submission, to share what this team is doing, what they're building, what is the road plan, where are we at, and then current market analysis. So thank you very much to all of you for tuning in. Thank you very much for reposting the stream, helping us get it out there. 420. Nice. Doggo Donovan reposted the stream. Thank you, brother. Really appreciate it. So what we were just talking about is we had a pitch to 4 of the biggest names in the space. From Solana, the co-founder of Solana, Tully, for those that don't know. And our goal out of that pitch was just to, raise his eyebrows, get his attention, not we did far more than that. We were going for a base hit and we hit a home run because he raised his eyebrows so much that he's like, I'll angel this. Like, you have my attention. Now, it doesn't mean he's just going to throw a bunch of money at the company and do that. Like, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. And we can't really go over all the nuts and bolts of what's happening because of NDAs and out of respect for the relationship that is just building. But they definitely got his attention. Now, sadly and kind of ironically, it was overshadowed. For those that missed the speech or the pitch and the event, the second thing that came out, like the second team that went up that won was a fork of Solana called Analos, which is just Solana backwards, or Analos, or however you want to pronounce it. And I mean, a fork of Solana, even Adrian and I talked about, behind the scenes, it's kind of useless. It's not necessary. And he got called out on that. Their token went to like zero pretty much immediately. And they kind of got laughed off stage, which that whole controversy kind of stole all the attention from the Time.Fund pitch. So we got exactly what we wanted as a team out of that event, but we weren't really the eyes on focus because of how bad the second presentation went. And it's kind of like a car accident. If something goes really bad, all the attention kind of diverts to there. But the good news is we did get what we went in there for. And that was quite amazing. And as Adrian mentioned earlier, some solid feedback from the actual team to help, pivot. We don't want a team. There's over 20 people on this team. We have 6 developers. We have professional marketers. We have people that have been in the space for a long time. We're not looking for yes men or yes women or yes people. We're looking for people to acknowledge what we're doing and point out any flaws or point out systems of how we can make what we're doing better. And that is also what I think that differentiates this team from anything else I've seen in the space. Dropcart, thank you so much for reposting and tuning in. And what do we got here? Water Boy. Hey, buddy. Good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. Hyperstack is the next Solana unlock. It is going to be pretty crazy. We had somebody asking too, am I too late? Am I late? No, this is a great time to get in. If you want more information, go to our link tree. HyperonSol is the Twitter. It'll have the link tree, all the stuff. We're going to go over, for those that are just tuning in, we're going to go over the pitch. We have a few more questions for Adrian before we set him free. And then we're going to get into current market analysis, what is going on in the markets. Tully classless, not really. I mean, could they have handled that situation a little better? Maybe. But at the end of the day, he called the duck a duck. Yeah, they paid there, but the money's all going to charity, is my understanding. It's not like it's lining their pockets or anything. And if you know the space, I don't think it was a surprise to a lot of people and a lot of the devs that were involved, is what I've been hearing. So now let's put the Time.Fund aside. And that was to get, like we've said many times here, to get the attention of Tully and Mert and Ansem. But what also is interesting, the hackathon, Tully is a judge in the hackathon as well. So we definitely got his attention. So how do you feel about the hackathon? Give us a little synopsis of how it went. I understand there's already a lot of teams. How many teams have already talked to you about using this technology? What's going on? And then we're going to let you go, because I know we've had you for about 30 minutes. And when we're done catching up on your views on the hackathon, I'll share the submission video, and then we'll get into some market analysis. So give us a little your 2 cents on the hackathon, how it went and what happened.
Yeah, I think that the hackathon went incredibly well. I think the product we've got is exciting, and it was a crazy sprint. I didn't get that much sleep throughout the whole month of building it, but the experience was incredible. We met a lot of really interesting people who've advised us, a lot of very, very good help along the way, and kind of underscoring your point about the critical feedback, and that's what we really need. We don't want people who tell us this is great, like you're going to take over the world. We need people who can help us improve, and we found a lot of those people throughout the hackathon. So that has been incredibly helpful, and there's a lot of long-term people that we will align with the going forward that we picked up throughout the hackathon, and really showed them what we're capable of, and they showed us what they're capable of, and that really improved the product. And we ended up getting, I think, 50 teams sign up for the wait list. So we'll be in touch with them to get them involved in the beta testing of HyperStack. And I think from now it's like we keep building. Like the hackathon might be over, but we're still building the product. So we keep hustling there, and then we obviously steadfastly wait and hope that we do well in the hackathon. And I think we've got a good shot. A lot of the things that they're looking for, we tick the boxes. It's a novel solution to a problem. It's a real problem that exists, and for those that don't know, the hackathon is split out into tracks. So you submit your project into a particular track. That might be DeFi or consumer app or any other number of things. And the one that we submitted to is infrastructure. And so the people who are judging, because there's a ton of judges, right? Because there's so many different projects that are involved, like 1,500 projects, and they have to get through all of these in a couple of weeks. So they have like a bunch of judges. I think like 200 judges or something. It's a crazy number of judges, and so they obviously split out the work. So the people looking at the infrastructure are really technical people. They understand infrastructure. They know these problems. And so when they look at our project, I think they will immediately recognize that we're tackling a problem that's real, and we have a somewhat interesting solution. And our approach is different, because there's actually another project that we were speaking with in the hackathon that was tackling a similar problem, like this kind of issue of data on Solana. And I think one of the interesting things there is they took a completely different approach to us. So I think one, that's validating that there's another team that saw the same problem. So that shows that we didn't just make it up. And I think then we get to compete on which solution is best, which one is tackling the problem in the most interesting way, in the most scalable way. And I think from that perspective, we have a really good shot. This is something that I've spent 10 years doing. I have fairly good intuitions on what are good solutions to technical problems, and I think we've got an exciting one. And we've spoken with a bunch of people at the Solana Foundation, various other people, educational platforms who teach developers for a living, and the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive in terms of the technological solution. And then, as we mentioned earlier, Tolly's excited about the technological solution as well. So it really comes down to, we have a product here that is interesting, it's exciting, it's a good scalable solution, and then we just need to keep building and iterating on how we can actually monetize this correctly. But I think when it comes down to it in the hackathon, we're in the running. Of course, I can't say for sure we're going to do well, because that's up to the judges. And there's various factors in that. Like, the judges might be having a bad day when they look at our project. They might be looking at us at the end of the day when they're tired. There's so many things that we don't control, but the things we do control is taking on a good problem and presenting a good solution to that problem, and doing everything in our power to show that we know how to do it. Be that like code, but then it's also so much more than that. It's about how present are we on socials, how good is our marketing, how good is our networking, our ability to get in the room with the right people. And I think we check many of those boxes. We were active on socials throughout the whole thing. We continue to be active on socials. We're continuing to build. We did manage to get access to some big name people who gave us some good feedback, and some of them even agreed to be part of our pitch deck. So all of these things, I think, check the boxes that we need. So I don't think we could have done much more in terms of putting ourselves in a good position to win. And now it's up to the judges, and hopefully they see it the same way we do, and we can come out on top. That's the hope.
Nice. No, I think you've hit the nail on the head there with a lot of the stuff. And like I said, you speak eloquently, and the roadmap from behind the scenes of what we were trying to accomplish as a team. Um, I think I can confidently say it was check, 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 check. And this is a long-term vision, people. This isn't like a overnight kind of a thing. Like, there's Adrian's in charge of 5 other developers that are working towards the hyper stack, as it's called, of all of their technology. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't want to spoil the video, so I haven't watched your actual video pitch. Do you give, because I've had a few people comment, is there a demo in that pitch that we get to see how some of this tech works?
So there's actually 2 videos in the pitch submission. So one is the actual pitch of like using the slide deck. That's fairly similar to what we presented on the Time Fund pitch. Slightly different. We actually used some of the feedback from the Time Fund pitch to modify it a little bit. So that's there. And then there's a secondary video, which is showing how HyperStack actually works from a developer standpoint. Like, what is the code that you write and how does that work? How does that all flow together? We did put a little bit of that in the Time Fund pitch as well. So much of it is kind of similar, but for those who haven't seen it, I think it's valuable. And yeah, from there, I mean, it's a developer product, so maybe not the most exciting to the non-developers out there. But what is exciting about it is what that facilitates. It's what can be built with HyperStack quickly, and that's where we will start building more. I mean, we've already started on that. I can't reveal too much there, but we are working on other things using HyperStack. One, to test out, like stress test HyperStack as a developer, so that we know what the pain points are, so we can fix them, and then we're trying to bring to market, like, we have the coin flip, but that was always just this kind of proof of concept that can we build a game that produces revenue, that uses our tech, that uses the randomness we have, that uses all of these different things to produce revenue. And we made some decent revenue from that, but it's a coin flip game at the end of the day. It's very simple. There's not a lot of excitement that can happen in a simple coin flip. So we're working on things that are a lot more exciting, that give a lot more ability for people to get involved. And like, a coin flip is you versus your friend, or you versus the house. We want to get everybody involved so that there could be hundreds or thousands of people playing at the same time and create a real community atmosphere. The other communities can use, our community can use it, and it's just going to benefit the whole of Solana ecosystem. So that's something that we're deep into working on right now, in parallel to continuing with HyperStack. And I think that's when it starts to become real for people, when they start to see the things that we can build with it, and the experiences that we can bring to market, and the speed at which we can iterate on those. And that's where we'll start to really see communities thriving, more revenue being produced for ourselves, more revenue being produced for our partners. And that's when we really unlock the power of HyperStack. Of course, for any developers in the audience, the tech itself is exciting because it helps them build faster as well. But I think the true excitement will come when we reveal some of the other things that we're working on behind the scenes.
And normally I hate when projects say, oh, we got this going on and things like that. But in reality, there are things as NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, and we like to over deliver and under promise. And I can tell you, I show up here every week because I get a glimpse of what's happening in the background, and I'm stoked. I'm excited. There is so much going on. It's definitely, you're building the tools for the gold rush, as opposed to trying to go find the gold. And for going with these programs, you know, one of the things we've talked about a few times, so I can talk about it a little bit, is, you know, Solana has their mobile phone, and we want to be kind of like what the App Store is to the iPhone, what HyperTek is to the Solana phone. And there's lots of exciting opportunities and ideas and things that are being done by the team, connections made with many different teams. Like you said, there's over 50 teams from the 1,500 projects that were there that were able to go, holy shit, you guys are building something crazy. We want to use this for our project. And that's pretty exciting to have that just come out in that, arena in and of itself. So, do you have any last things you want to say? I know you've been here for 40 minutes and I usually keep you longer than I'm allowed to keep you. I always appreciate your time. Before we roll into the video, do you have any last thoughts or comments before next week? Any hints of what might be to come or anything like that?
Yeah, I actually want to mention about the Solana phone a little bit, because that's something that we're thinking deeply about right now. Of course, that's a big focus for Solana Labs, the Seeker phone, and really pushing that. And we're seeing some traction on the Solana phone right now with games like, or protocols like Ore, which is producing silly amounts of revenue right now. And they're really pushing that on the Solana phone. And I think there's a big opportunity because we're early on the Solana phone. There's, I think, something like 150,000 units sold, which is a decent amount of holders of the phone who can actually play these games and use these apps. But it's still not so big as to be saturated. So it feels like there's a lot of opportunity there to create experiences on the Solana phone that will place us in a position where we're early as the rising tide comes in, right? Like, we can, if we position ourselves as a project that has activity on the Solana phone, then as more and more people get involved, they buy a Seeker, they start to see the amazing, like, the Seeker phone is really incredible. For anyone who doesn't have one, it's worth checking out, because it's a stock Android phone, but it comes effectively with a Ledger hardware wallet built in, and it gives this experience that feels like Apple Pay, where you can just like double tap on the side button with like biometrics, and it signs the transactions for you. That experience feels really great. As somebody who's used a bunch of different hardware wallets, I really enjoy having a phone that has it built in, and it's something that I can see more and more people getting involved with. So if we can really build experiences that leverage that technology, that leverage the amazing user experience of having that like wallet built into your phone, it feels like the future to me. And I think the Solana Labs position on this has always been that if we can build something with hardware wallets integrated by default, we can kind of push the envelope for the bigger phone manufacturers to start doing it. If they start to see the Solana phone is really pushing the envelope on crypto, and there's a lot of usage of it, and there's money to be made there, then you better believe that Samsung, Huawei, Apple, they will all start to integrate crypto wallets into their phones. And if we're already building apps that make use of that technology for the Solana phone, and we're seen as like one of the forefront developers of apps on the Solana ecosystem, then we're super well positioned as these kind of apps grow into other ecosystems as well. And we could become like one of the premier dev shops for apps across all of crypto, if that really comes to be. So I think that's a great opportunity for us. So we're thinking very deeply about how we can capitalize on this opportunity and position ourselves well, because we're in a position now where we do have technology. We've got the randomness, we've got HyperStack, we're building all these pieces, which they seem kind of disparate right now, but they're all moving in the same direction. They're giving us the tools that we need to build exceptional experiences. And when all of that comes together, it's going to be this like wonderful symphony that will allow us to position ourselves on Solana as the whole ecosystem, on Solana mobile specifically, and then also on the crypto native experiences that will branch out in every other app as well across all devices. So I think this is a very exciting time to be building in crypto, because it feels like we're right on the precipice of something where crypto's going to go mainstream. Like, people have been saying this for a long time, but it's
Absolutely.
always been my opinion that the problem holding everybody back, or holding the whole ecosystem back, is the user experience. It's just like, we can't expect people to, like, their current options are effectively buy a ledger, and you have to figure out like how to use the hardware wallet, how to correctly custody your funds, and then deal with all of that, or you just use a hot wallet and then you get drained. those are like two bad options. So if we want everybody to be using it, it needs to feel like Apple Pay. And the Solana mobile is really pushing that forward. And I think that is a sign of things to come. And as we start to see crypto really proliferate into the masses, if we're already positioned with all the technology we need and we've got some successful apps, then we will be able to ride that tide. And that's part of this big vision that we have. It's not just a short-term thing. We're trying to pump the price. We're trying to position ourselves for the wave of technology that's coming. And if we can build the ship correctly, then we're going to float as the tide rises, and then we can really capitalize on that over the long run.
And I know you just got one of these phones. How much were they again?
I believe it was 2.5 sol when I got one, which is at the time about $600. So I assume it's around $600 because I think it's priced in dollars, not
a third of the price of an iPhone, kind of a thing. So
yeah,
definitely within anybody that's in this space, let's be honest.
yeah. I think especially if you're an Android user, it's worth a look because it's a really great phone. It's got a great camera. It's got like a powerful chip. It's not like some knockoff terrible phone. Like the phone itself is actually a good phone, but it comes with this built-in crypto wallet that just integrates so nicely with the apps, so that all of these apps. So, for example, if you have on your iPhone today, you've got Phantom, Jupiter Wallet, Backpack, whatever wallet app you're using. If you want to share this like funds across them so that you can use any of those apps, you need to transfer the seed between those different apps. And that's like terrible from a security standpoint because now your seed has been in the open and you have to copy and paste it into another app and you open up all these security nightmares. On the Seeker phone, the seed phrase exists on the phone, on a hardware wallet inside the phone. So you can install all these apps, open the app, and your funds are there because they're all reading from the same wallet in a secure way. And that means that I can build an app, or you could build an app, or anybody can build an app that just uses the wallet on the phone rather than requiring you to build your own custom wallet in the app and transfer seed phrases across. You can just use the same wallet across all of them, and it's done in a much more secure way. And then actually signing transactions is just a thumbprint and a double tap, just like it would be on an iPhone for Apple Pay or something. I think it's a wonderful breakthrough in terms of the user experience. And I think that we're very early on it. The Seeker phone has only recently come out. So I think in a year from now, many more people are going to own a Seeker. And I could foresee a time where people are actually using this as their daily driver phone. That's I don't think is the case right now. Most people are almost using it as a hardware wallet, and they have their main daily carry phone, and then they've got this separate hardware wallet phone. But I could see a time in the future where people are using this as their daily driver phone, and that's something that is just it's very exciting in terms of building apps for that, because building apps for the Apple App Store today is saturated, right? Like you have to really build a great app and have great distribution to have any kind of chance of success. But if you were building apps on the Apple App Store in 2010, it was much easier to hit a home run. And the Seeker phone is just not saturated right now. There's just not that many apps on there. So there's great opportunity to build some really dominant apps that grow with the whole ecosystem. And that's really our goal here.
What I'm seeing in my head right now, and I wish I had it, I could throw it on screen instantly, but and I don't know if people here in the audience have heard of this, but it's called the bell curve of adoption. And this is quite a unique thing. It's been, done by scientists and psychologists and how it works. And it's just a simple bell curve. And when new tech comes, in the very far left of the bell curve, it's the innovators, the idea seekers. And then just after that, it's the early adopters, the people that go into it. And then the next step is kind of the middle of the bell curve. And that's where more people get in, the mass market. And then the last end of the bell curve is the people that were doubting it in the beginning from years ago. And this, to me, just sounds like you're early, and this is like being in Bitcoin when, years ago, and all this kind of tech that is becoming, as you said, less hassle. more user friendly. And I feel like we're so early on that bell curve. And if our tech and product that we're building can help the developers for that product plus our own, I mean, the sky's the limit at this point. Sorry,
Yeah,
I saw
I couldn't agree more. I do think we're very early. We're in the innovator cycle of that kind of adoption curve on Solana Mobile. I think it's most of the people that own one right now are builders like me, and they're interested in the technology and want to see what can be built. Um, the kind of early majority are only going to come when the apps are there, and right now there's just not that many apps. There's some, or is probably the most successful right now in terms of revenue for sure. There's some other cool apps on there that are gaining some traction, but it's not like there's a million apps. And I have no idea how many are on the App Store, but it's going to be in the multiple millions, right? And that's where you start to see when you can download an app to track your steps or download an app to do your diet and all of that kind of stuff. That's when people are like, oh, let's check it out. But when the apps are just kind of developer focused and very techy, then it's only people who are early in terms of excited about the tech that are going to adopt it. And that's the phase we're in for the Seeker phone. But I do think that there's some chance that it will get to 1 million units of the phone being sold, and there'll be hundreds of thousands or millions of apps. And at that point, it looks like quite an attractive phone that's somewhat competitive to the incumbents right now. And I think at that point, if we can have a dominant position as an app builder, then we can really ride that wave as more and more people adopt the phones.
Yeah, I have seen it. It is a sexy phone. But I think you hit something there with the adoption. Like Solana is starting to become a much better blockchain. And if you actually follow Solana on Twitter, you see all the updates that are happening. It's amazing. And they have the ETFs now and all this stuff. You always hear oh, I wish I knew about this project earlier. I mean, a lot of my followers know I trade for a living. This is what I do. My best trades are finding good projects early and doing nothing, just investing and sitting on your hands, not worrying about the ups and downs and the flows that drive most people mental, and always chasing the golden carrot, and the getting caught up in the fear and the greed and the selling when you should be buying and the buying when you should be selling. I mean, some of this tech to me is a no-brainer, where if you just get involved and sit on your hands, it's some of the easiest things to do, and not even worry about it. But I'll get more into that when we look at some of the market a little bit later in this stream. We have just under 600 people tuned in. Once again, thank you so much for all tuning in. We always appreciate you coming to listen to Adrian talk about what's going on with HyperTek, which is the name given to all the products that he's building. If you want to learn more about this community, it's on Twitter or X at HyperOnSol. Has the link tree, has everything available there. Adrian, again, thank you so much for your time. And I know you do got to run, and I've asked you a couple of times, any last words before I jump into your YouTube video called Hyperstack Vision?
No, that's it. Thanks for having me as always, and I appreciate everyone who tunes in and listens, and people who stick with us and seeing the bigger vision of what we're trying to build, because I think it's incredibly exciting stuff that we're getting to build in a very nascent ecosystem that's just going to continue to grow. I mean, we've seen the growth of crypto since I've been in it in 2017, and I think that we're in that adoption curve, right? Like in 2017, it was the early adopters, and I think now in overall crypto, we're into the early majority. We're into the middle section of the bell curve, but it will just continue to grow from here. And it's exciting times to be building. So thanks for having me, and thanks to everyone who's listening.
Once again, man, you're a true GOAT. I'm going to play this video now. And I'm actually curious, if you're tuned in right now, if you can throw me a comment, how many are you actually watching or listening to this on your phone? Because that there should tell you that, we always hear, the internet and crypto and all this stuff. The majority of our users are actually doing this on your phones, which I think, as an old man, because I'm the old man in the group, I'm 50. I've never hidden that fact. I do all my stuff on a laptop. One, the phone's too small for me, but two, I'm old school. I want to see the screen. I've got Frank saying on my phone, Crypto Joe's on my phone. Even if you're not commenting, if you're watching or listening to this and you're on your phone, you should see how early this technology is for Web3 and crypto to go to the phone. And let's be honest, we know everybody lives on their devices. Where is this going to be in a few years from now? Sorry, just checking a few messages here. I've got a couple of videos posted. Hold on, give me 1 second, ladies and gentlemen, so I can share different things. He's sending me some stuff in the background before he leaves. Adrian, you're an absolute GOAT. So I'm going to share a few of these videos that he's got. Is a follow-up of the pitch video is this one. Oh, all right. Let me get this screen ready. Sorry, people. I am going to change this up a minute. Share screen. Present. At the stage. All right. For the just shy of 600 of you tuning in, that's awesome. Let's give this a watch and a listen.
Hi, I'm Adrian, and we're building HyperTek. Building data pipelines on Solana is time-consuming and complicated. There's just so many different pieces you have to figure out, from RPC providers, gRPC streaming, managing all of this different cloud infrastructure, and getting the data into your clients to deliver your users the experience they deserve. I've spoken with dozens of teams, and the time and cost required is holding them all back. But that's where HyperTek comes in. We let you define data infrastructure in a single step, and we take care of the rest. Developers can take properties from multiple on-chain accounts and bring them all together into a single application state, defining primary keys and joins and various other features across all of their accounts to create a rich data model that represents everything that they need on-chain. And from that data model, we create the infrastructure. Our custom bytecode interpreter merges all of your accounts and instruction updates into your defined app state, and we stream it to you over WebSockets. And our client SDKs, like React hooks, keep your app in sync automatically without RPC polling or manually joining accounts together. HyperTek will be an open source platform, and these data stacks can be shared, opening up more composability in the app layer than we've ever seen before. Our vision is to create a full developer platform for Solana. Similar to Web2 platforms like Supabase and Convex, we want to increase the velocity of app builders building on Solana. And we'll build our own apps on top of this infrastructure to capture more revenue from the volume flowing through our system. And to test this out, we built a Telegram game. And so far, we've produced $200,000 in revenue from that game. And for HyperTek, we have 50 teams ready to build with our beta. And we're in discussions with educational platforms like Turbine to produce workshops to skill up their talent using HyperTek. Our business model is a monthly fee for the managed cloud infrastructure. And that fee scales with the usage from each team. So as their application grows, we make more revenue. I'm Adrian, a developer with a decade of experience in hardware, virtual machines, and building protocols that have done over $100 million in volume. My co-founder, Harry, has a decade in crypto, and he co-founded the fintech arm of a $2 billion NASDAQ-listed company. Thank you for listening, and I encourage you to check out this video about our vision for HyperStack, or have a look at our demo to see HyperStack in action. Thank you.
I mean, if that doesn't make you bullish, I don't know what doesn't. You know, like the CEO, Metablock. He's been here a few times on the show. He's shared his vision. We're gonna have him probably next week to talk about some of the stuff we've been hinting at and things like that. I'm going to also share right now. We have just over 600 of you. What I love about these streams, I've been streaming for over 5 years. You guys are loyal. Like I never see the numbers drop. I always just see the numbers increase. And I really appreciate that. It makes us want to do this every week and come out and share what this team is doing. I appreciate all the retweets you're going to do. Now I'm going to share the actual demo. Just give me a second here. I'll bring this to screen, and let's have a look at this here.
Here we can see HyperStack in action using a game that we have deployed on-chain that's playable via Telegram. So I can trigger a game in Telegram and we'll see the browser updating immediately. And if I click heads, then the game will settle on-chain and we'll see this object updating with more information as the game settles. And we see the settle time coming through now. But how is this possible? If we jump into our React code, we can see all we need to do is import the React hook and the Hyperflip stack. And this stack is generated from the Rust schema that we'll take a look at shortly. And then all we're doing is displaying out the first game we see. And this is the schema that defines it all. So this is the ID, which is this nested structure that we saw in the browser, with the settle time. And this is using two different on-chain accounts. We have game settlement and the game registry. And we define a join on key and a primary key. And we can create all these nested structures using these stream section macros. And anything we define as an entity is streamable over WebSockets. And the React SDK or any other of our SDKs knows how to stream those different objects. And there's different syntax to pull out different objects in lists or key value stores or however you need to consume it inside your app. And from here, this all compiles down into a custom bytecode interpreter. And that's how all of our WebSocket information is being streamed out. Right now, this is being defined using the proto definitions. That was a technical decision that we made so that we could reduce the complexity of having to generate all the parsers right now so that we can get all of this working, get the logic to merge all the accounts together and stream that out over WebSockets so that we can build out these client SDKs to get a feel for how the whole system will work. Our next step is to integrate IDLs into this so you can define this using an IDL, and then we can define all these types for the accounts from that IDL, and eventually allow the native anchor types or types used in your Pinocchio programs or wherever you need to use these, you can use these to create these defined schemas that show all the relationships between your accounts with joins and all these different primary keys and the strategies for how to set these values. If we see multiple account updates, in this case, we're just setting once. So the first time we see it, it sets it and we forget it. But there's various other ways we can do this. We can define transforms like encoding byte arrays as hex to create these rich data representations for your whole application on chain, all of the accounts together in a single application state.
That's definitely a little more for the devs and the technical side in the audience. Some of that went over my head, but I think that we had a comment here that kind of sums it up from Crypto Warrior. So undervalued. Tully and Solana reposting the tech is a good indicator. And you hit the nail on the head there, buddy. Like when you see the co-founder of Solana now tweeting about HyperTek, and then it wasn't just a couple of times, that's bullish to me. Like there's still a lot to do, as Adrian has talked about and said, to ongoing, but where they've come from in the time that we've been doing this has just been crazy. It's been absolutely crazy. And I've got one last video. I mean, we're still growing in numbers for all you tuning in. Once again, not to sound like a broken record, but always appreciate you tuning in, your time, and listening. We've been talking about how the Time.Fun pitch went, how we got the attention of Tully and Mert and a few others, and now that the HyperTek team is in direct communication with them, and then the competition, or the hackathon rather, is now been closed and our submission videos have been entered, which you're seeing here right now, and we're just waiting to hear back the results. But to know that 50 teams at the actual hackathon, were raising their eyebrows to our tech and going, hey, we want to be on your wait list to use your tech for our products, I think that speaks volumes to what these guys are building. Just give me another moment here so I can share my screen and get on to the next the last video here, which is the vision. And this is Adrian again, the CEO, not this, the CTO, leading. We have a team of 6 devs that are doing all this. We're all over the world. They work nonstop, 7 days a week. My first question to Adrian backstage before we launched the stream a little over an hour ago was, "Hey, buddy, are you getting some rest?" And his reply was just a chuckle, and he's like, a little more. But I know he wakes up and grinds every single day and comes here every week to share what's going on. And I mean, this was the dream years ago for me as an early adopter and trying to find solid teams to invest in and forget about. You're seeing it right here. And when you have these big names excited about what's going on, like I said, it just as Link says right here, bullish. I agree with you, buddy. I absolutely agree with you. Let's see what Adrian has to say in this video.
Now that you've seen the presentation, I want to take this opportunity to explain a little bit more about who we are behind HyperStack and what our big vision for what we're building here is. We recently got the opportunity to pitch Tolly on this idea, and here's a short clip of some of the feedback that he had for us.
Do you guys run your own interpreter as a program, basically?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. That's great. I mean, like, I think that was almost the initial intention of the SVM design, is that every program can own its own state machine effectively. Yeah, I think that this is really cool. I think
In the
if you guys have some revenue, like 100K, this is pretty great seed stage pitch. Like, I think, like, send me the docs. Like, I'm down to Angel. Like, just on that. You built tech that works. You found a way to like make some money.
So that was amazing feedback to hear, and it's really motivated us to continue building. We know we're on the right path here. But who are we? So as I said in the presentation, my name is Adrian, and I'm the CTO at HyperStack. And I've spent a decade building, including a lot of time at a Google Ventures-backed company that raised multiple rounds up to an $800 million valuation and was doing between $50 and $100 million of annual recurring revenue. And my co-founder, Harry, he co-founded previously a company that's the fintech arm within a $2 billion NASDAQ listed company. And he built that from scratch and scaled that into billions of dollars of institutional volume. So we really know what it takes to scale a company. And I have the tech background of building developer tools at this Google funded company to help builders move quickly. This is something I'm very passionate about, and I think we can really bring something new and interesting to help Solana move quicker. We want to build a platform that's similar to Firebase or Supabase or Convex, as many of these platforms in Web 2 that help non-technical or less technical builders ship quicker by giving them the abstractions that get rid of all the busy work, all of the technical hard things, and let them focus on their core business logic that is their app's competitive advantage. And these platforms within Web 2 have scaled to massive, massive valuations. But on Solana, we don't see any platforms like this. Everything's still very low level and focused on the highly technical people. I think there's an opportunity here to add some value, to bring in more developers, to bring in more talent who can build apps but don't want to focus on the infrastructure. We can handle all of that infrastructure, and we can charge them for the convenience that that offers. They can save time and the money by not having to pay for their own RPCs, for their own cloud infrastructure, their databases, all of those things. They pay us a fixed monthly fee that then scales with how they use it. If they're getting more usage on the platform, they pay us more. And we can make revenue doing that. And then we can build out more apps, more tooling with on-chain tools as well to create a really Web3 native version of these Web2 tools. And we can charge fees through volume that's going through our systems on chain. And we can capture revenue from the infrastructure and the on-chain pieces. And through that, we can scale a real business and provide a ton of value to the entire Solana ecosystem.
Yeah, was on mute. I mean, there's so much going on, and some of the comments I'm getting right now, bullish and all this. How can you not be? When you have, we've said it before a bunch of times, we have just under 700 of you now tuned in. You have a team with 20 people that have been in this space for over a decade. That are all working towards a common goal, that are solving problems, and have already got products to show for it. And the time, we've all heard it before, the time to buy or invest in something is when there's fear in the markets. And let's be honest, right now there's fear in the markets. And the easiest thing is, the company is called Not Financial Advice fucking course. If you've been following me for years, you know that NFA OFC is what I've always come across from and represent. This to me is a no-brainer investment. If you want to get the ticker, go to the Twitter page. HyperOnSol is where it can be found on X. The link tree is there. You can get the contract address. Yes, the market is down. Yes, the chart of Hyper has been on a decline. And full transparency, that's because in the beginning, there was a bunch of OTCs done to KOLs that did absolutely fuck all for the project. They got a great deal on it. And in this last few weeks of red in the markets, they all cashed out. And they caused this chart to go down to what it is. But in my opinion, if you've just been tuning in, or if you've been following every now and then and you've been contemplating it, now is a great time to do a little investing. And this to me is an investment. This isn't a swing. I wouldn't be coming here every Thursday and taking my time to do this, to talk about it. Crypto Warrior just posted the contract. Yes, it was originally a CTO of a pump fund coin, and it's turned into so much more in that you've seen. This is almost a year old, and you can see this progress. It doesn't happen overnight, and this is going to go in so many places, and I'm a firm believer in it. But it's one of those things. Invest always what you can afford to lose. I've said that from day one on any project. But it's one of those things, just sit on it, forget about it, and then come back and thank me later when we're talking about the thousands of % returns, which I've been known for finding gems over the last 6 years in this space. Links beyond undervalued. I 100% agree. And each member of this team tries to bring value to it. We are not paid. We are here because we believe in the vision of the CEO and the vision of the CTO. That's Metablock, and that is Adrian, who's now left us for the space. because he's going back to building. I can tell you that much right now. And it's amazing to see how much they do. And not only that, every week when we come on a Thursday and report to you guys what's been happening, what's going on, and where we're at. What other projects been doing that? You know, like there used to be a time in this space where we would, we would prayed for this kind of thing. And now the market has become so weird because it's become so oversaturated with so much shit out there. And these people that think I'm going to get rich overnight on a meme coin, or I'm going to, in a couple of weeks, I expect 1,000% return. Let's just face reality. Let's just keep it a little simpler. Where can I throw, what I can afford to lose and set and forget about it? That might be $100. That might be a few $1,000s. Everybody's budget is different. And when I talk about aces and places and what values that we can bring, one of the things I was asked by the CEO was to host these streams. And then if you've been following me over the years outside of the streams, is my market analysis and finding, good gems early in projects early. Everything from, I told you to mint the Bored Apes and hence my PFP. And yes, I made a fortune on them and I had a bunch, and I'm never going to sell my Laser Ape. That's my forever one, and things like that. But we've found so many good projects over the years, if you've been following me, where we've had ridiculous, percentage returns. But none of those were overnight. None of those were in a week or two. They were over time. And that to me has always been the easiest way to trade. But one of the values I want to bring to the community is a lot of people don't teach finance. They don't discuss finance. They don't talk about money. It's a taboo subject in most cultures for whatever fucking reason. And I've always in this space have wanted to break down that wall, because we can't learn about it unless we talk about it. So we've reopened our Discord, and you can get the Discord link to this project, HyperonSol, on Twitter. In the link tree, you can get into the Discord. And in the next week, I'm going to start putting my market analysis on the regular in our Discord. And I'm going to put my trades in the Discord. So I, as an added value to this community, can bring something as well. I'm not a dev. I can't make all these fancy tools and products for blockchains. That's not my expertise. My expertise is being able to find great projects early, and then also being able to trade and make sense. And if you followed me for a long time, I've always talked about what I call the money flow cycle, and understanding how money works, how money moves is how you make trades. And if we follow the money flow cycle, we can make profitable trades. Macy Bluebell, yes, I agree. I'm excited. It's good to be back. If you've been in other Discords with me in the past, there's been many Discords I've been a part of and communities I've been a part of where I had my own channels and shared a lot of my trades. And a lot of us have made monies over the years together. And I'm excited to do that again. I'm also a moderator for Coins Kid and things like that. This is what I do for a living, and I live well. I'm not here to pump my own tires, but let's call a duck a duck. So the money flow cycle is understanding that money moves, and it moves between various markets based on media. At the end of the day, there's black swan events like wars or bombs being dropped, or Trump news or things like that affect all markets that we can't do anything about. That's why they're called black swans. But if we can understand the money flow cycle and where the money is moving and how it's moving, we can make better trades. Links, very cool. We'll copy your trades for sure. Now, I'm not going to say I'm going to bat 10 out of 10. Never. We're all going to make mistakes. And I think all of us, if you've been tuning in and staying listening, understand that concept. But if we win more than we lose, we're doing better than the majority. If you actually Google traders and a successful Wall Street trader, they don't hit many out of 10. They hit a few out of 10. Well, I hit a lot more than a couple out of 10, but we definitely will have a couple of blunders. But it's about minimizing your risk and going into trading and approaching finances in the markets with strategy and sticking to your strategy. Trading, to be honest, is 10% skill and 90% emotional management. And I can teach you the 10% skill, no problem. It's actually quite easy. And I'm going to show you some of the stuff coming up here in the next little bit on the stream and how I look at the markets and analyze them. What I can't teach you is your own personal emotional management. But what we have going on in the markets right now is fear. And when it's the time to buy, fear. When it's the time to sell, greed. We all know this, but being able to do it is another story. And when we look at, sorry, I'm just going to try and get my screens ready here to share some market analysis with you. Oh, where'd you go? Present, share screen, window. When kind of lost my train of thought there. Sorry. I do appreciate all of you tuning in. I'm about to leave the HyperTek speech now and the HyperonSol and kind of just jump into some market analysis. Where are we at in the current market? How I look at markets, what indicators I use, how do I start a trade from execution to finish, and what I see happening. So let me just bring this up on stage now and just go from there. So, I mean, I do something what I called quick and dirty when I mark it up, and I kind of give what I see happening, and I just draw lines on it, and I'm not looking for an exact number line. I'm just kind of giving a ballpark area. And if you would have tuned in a couple of weeks ago on the stream, I said we would have a good chance of coming down to this resistance level of the total market cap. So the total market cap, for those that don't know, is all of the money within an ecosystem. So this is the total market cap of crypto. This is all the money in crypto: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, all the shit coins, everything. All the money in crypto right now is at 3.35 trillion. And we missed last Thursday because of getting the stuff ready for the hackathon. So the Thursday before that, I said I wouldn't be surprised if the total market cap came down to these levels here, to which was the resistance here. And look where we're at today. And, you know, I did call for a rebound, and this is, like I said, the quick and dirty. Like, I expect us to come down here, and I expect us to go back up to, you know, these levels up here. I'm going to clean this up and just make it a little easier to see and talk about what we're looking at and make it make sense. Because I've had a few people ask me in DMs this week, and talking to a few people, like, can I go into a little more depth? So that's what I'm planning to do on this show or this stream right now, is to go into a little more detail of how I analyze and how I look at it as a trader in this space. The total market cap is your money flow. If money is leaving the crypto market, it doesn't matter what crypto it is, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, meme coins. If money is leaving the market, the prices of all those are going to go down. If money is entering the market, the prices are going to go up. And so it's not what you buy, it's more of when you buy it. And what does all this stuff and all these squiggles and lines mean? And that's what I'll go into. So let's hide some of this stuff first off. So the first thing I always like to do is zoom out, right? And zooming out gives us the bird's eye view of what's happening in the actual market overall. And now we're zoomed out and we're on a weekly time frame. So each one of these candles is a week. Well, what is the definition? I follow data. I don't follow emotion. Okay. So I'm not here to listen to, a KOL or Joe Blow on Twitter. I'm here to follow the data. And what is the data telling me? Because that at the end of the day is the only thing that matters. And if you follow the emotion and if you follow the Twitter space and all of that garbage, I mean, every other day we're either in a bear market or we're in a bull market or the sky is falling or, we're all going to be millionaires. And literally it can switch on a day-to-day level. And that kind of emotion, even for me, it's too much, man. And following data is so much easier. So let's just break it down to the simplest form. What is a bull market? Bull markets are higher highs and higher lows. Bear market is lower highs and lower lows. Well, where are we? We're still in a bull market. We're making higher lows. We're making higher highs. Nothing goes up straight forever. Retracements and consolidation is healthy. We want consolidation. Consolidation is an area or region of price. The longer something's in consolidation, it leads to breakouts. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to go up. It could break out to the bottom. But there's tools and tricks to understand, is it going to go up or is it going to go down? Right now, on a weekly time frame, we're still following this up. We're still following this line. And as soon as if I draw a quick line here, it's going to pull up my indicators and my draws and stuff. So I'm just using my cursor right now to explain some of these simple concepts. I've said many a times, I think we're going to get to the $7-8 trillion market cap, which is about double of where we're at. And if we look over the history of time, we see these big ups, consolidation, and there's always these pullbacks. There's always pullbacks in bear markets. Well, we've had some pullbacks over the last little while due to some, we've had some wars. We've had Trump. We've had tariffs going on. Uncertainty. We got to remember, crypto is our highest risk investment. So when we talk about money flow and there's fear in all the markets, the money will leave the highest risk. So the money is going to leave crypto. When money is scared, where does it go? It goes to gold. Scared money always goes to gold, right? So that's why gold is at all-time highs and has just been going nuts lately because there's still a lot of fear in the markets. But what did we say earlier? We all know buy low, sell high. You buy fear. Doesn't mean right now, here today, is the time to buy something. There is market entry. There's dollar cost averaging your entries. There's strategies to consider. And we'll get into some of that later in this stream. But the money flow is what we're talking about. And when we go back to what we were talking about, and we just look at levels, we can see, and I'm going to take some of these drawings out to make it even easier. And normally I leave all my notes in to, to go back. We were consolidating in this box, this rectangle. Well, we broke out. And I said a few weeks ago, I wouldn't be surprised if we did. Right? So what indicators help us now determine is, are we still going to continue to come down, or are we going to go up? I always like to do market analysis, do all my TA and do all my numbers, and then add the indicators and use them as confluence. But for the sake of expediting the show today and a few things, I'm just going to add everything. Well, we're coming up into the EMA cross here, which is my micro bears and micro bulls and our Bollinger Bands. If I only had to use 2 indicators, I have a bunch of my own custom indicators that I help develop and build that I use. And then I have a few free ones. They're all right here. You can go back, stop, and see and load them up yourself. But if I only had to use 2, I would use my micro bear and bull, and I would use Bollinger Bands. And why don't, for now, I turn everything else off and just show you what those 2 look like. And what am I looking at? Well, I'll take off. Let's just look at Bollinger Bands to begin with. Michael Bollinger was an amazing trader, economist, really understood markets. And he invented this indicator. It's free. Anybody can download it. It'll come out in different colors. I use gold band for top. If you really want to see, and you can come back to this later. The basis, so that's your median for the record. I turn it white and I add circles. Upper, I like it as gold, and the lower, I like it as red. And I take my labels off price scales just to keep it simple. Right? So speaking of keep it simple, I'll delete some of this stuff. And very simple is when we get a red at the bottom and a green entry, it's indicating an entry. And then a green at top and a green out and a red in is indicating an exit. The theory of Bollinger Bands is think of Bollinger Bands as an elastic, okay, where the price is always fighting to get to the median. So if it gets too high to the top, it's going to want to pull down to the bottom. If it gets too low to the bottom, it's going to want to get back to the top. And we know there's support, resistance. This wasn't rocket science. This was resistance here, resistance here. We're hoping to turn this into support. And like I said, quick and dirty. I'm not trying to line this up like perfectly. Oh, here it is, right? We can do that with our tools for sure. Where are my tools? Where are my tools? Give me a second, people. I appreciate your patience. Hide that. That's what's been going on. So if you really want to get, overly technical, you can go, okay, my resistance support seems to be there. Lower support. And if you're going to use candle bodies or wicks, that's up to you. Just try to always do the same, is what I always say. Our lowest resistance support seems to be there. So technically, we could see sales pressure with bad news come down to this $3 trillion market cap. We could lose another $0.42 trillion. I'd be shocked if we did. I thought we were going to come down to these levels, and then we'll start to see the turnaround. And I said that a couple of weeks ago. We've come down to them. We have this wick. How much is that wick in total market value? $125 billion. it's showing, and the wicks here is showing that we have buy pressure, money coming back into the markets in this zone. And it's going to take, nothing goes straight up. There's always these like these steps of ups and downs. So when we zoom out and we add our indicators, let's add the other one I said I like to use is the micro bear and the micro bull. Now, this is just my custom EMA cross. I factor in commission. I use a slightly different number than everybody else. And what does this do? Let me get rid of Bollinger. Let me get rid of my drawings and just clean this up. So an EMA cross is really simple. And I called it a micro bear and a micro bull because even in a bull market, there's retracements. In a bear market, there's pumps, right? So I look at it as there's always micro bears and micro bulls. And when we get the cross, it's symbolizing we're entering out from a bear to a bull or a bull to a bear. We're changing whatever's happening. And sometimes we get really, looks like we're going to pinch and go down and then it takes off, or we get consolidation, or we've come way down in 2022. Remember, we're on a weekly here, right? And it does look like we're about to pinch and maybe come down. And if we were to come down, it would come down to this 3.07 trillion level. Like we had support here, we had support here. It takes some bad news to turn it in either direction. The black swans that we were talking about before, right? I think we're about to turn around and see more market. I'm an optimist, but I am prepared to see it go down, right? I understand that markets can be volatile. We might even see it come down to these levels. I don't think we will. It would take something major, I think, for that to happen. But I think we've seen a lot of this scared money leave, and now it's going to start to flow back. But what I look for are these curls or these bellies of the bears, right? Here's a belly. Here's a belly, right? These are where I want to, if I'm doing long positions, this is my entries. If I'm going to short something, I'm looking for these curls, because typically things start to go down. We had a curl here starting to come down. We're having support right here now. And this is on the weekly. And like I said, we're making higher lows. A bull market is higher lows. We're still going to have lows, right? The sky is not falling. I'll tell you if I think we've switched from a bull market to a bearish market. In every market, we've had pullbacks over the years. We've had massive pullbacks before it ripped, and we can measure them. There's 192 billion, 64% of the market left in 35 days before this massive rip. It was still higher than its last low. And it didn't take long before it ripped. We're still in a total market cap of higher highs and higher lows. That's why I'm still bullish. I'm basing it on data zoomed out. We're on the weekly. We're not on a 15-minute time frame here and getting lost in the sauce. Each one of these candles is a week, right? So let's change it up a bit. Let's go on the 3-day. Well, look at how that changes on a 3-day. We had a micro bear. Here's that belly. We're still pointing a little towards the downside. So I wouldn't be overly surprised on a 3-day if we retest this area of consolidation here. You got to remember, the market makers love fucking with you, the retail. This game is 10% skill, 90% emotion. 90% of the people in this space can't handle the emotion because they follow crypto Twitter. They follow the sky is falling, the sheeple, the sheep. Don't be a sheep. Don't follow the herd. Follow data. And if you follow me for a long time, you know the analogy I use of sheep all the time. In fact, I'll be flat out honest with you. One of the things that is most precious to me that I travel with, believe it or not, is a little Lego sheep. It's just, maybe a couple inches big. It's in my backpack or in my bag wherever I travel to always remind me, don't fall under sheep tendencies. Right? So what we're looking for here now is for this EMA, make it a little bigger and a little easier to see here. We're looking for this belly to curl. We're looking for this to get another bullish cross towards the upside. So we can have this, and there's going to be rejection here. It's going to come down, head up, and probably do all these steps to something like that. Right? We know this is going to be a little bit of resistance because it was support here and it lost it. So it's probably going to come up here, resist it, turn this into support before it comes back up. And that's the money flow. That's all the money coming into crypto. But these theories, this all is the same for a token. If you can understand what I'm explaining here and how I look at it, none of this changes this applies to all tokens. And if you have questions, hit me up. I'll answer them. And we can see right here, we have a parallel channel. 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch. It held the middle. Now we're looking for, and I did this quick and dirty. Here's our retest. We need to break out of this channel, retest it before we can take off. We need this belly to happen. And if we throw back on the Bollinger Bands, we need to get back to this median and get to the upper part of the band. I hope that makes sense, because I use this exact same theory and this exact same strategy to individual tokens. I'm just going to check quickly here if any of you have questions. No, you don't. We got 730 of you tuned in. Thanks for joining. So that's how I look at the money flow, and how 2 weeks ago I saw what was happening. I saw we have data coming up and things going on in the media. And to me, it wasn't a surprise that the markets were going to go down. I'll be honest. I love these kind of situations. This is when we reset fear and greed. This is when we reset stochastic. I bet you if I pull up stochastic right now, we're at the bottom. Here we are. So another indicator to add to an EMA and Bollinger Band, if you want to use 3 for confluence, is stochastic RSI, another free indicator. When they're at the bottom, it's a buy. When it's at the top, it's a sell. We're coming up to, it's pointing down right now, saying there might be a little more pain, which there might be a little more pain. We might come into this resistance here at 3.26, which is the bottom of this wick, the bottom of this wick, and the top of these candles. we might see a little bit more of a pullback before we take off. But if we look at the bottom here, what happened? We took off, right? If we look at other bottoms before we took off. Now, you can ride the bottom for a while. No one indicator is perfect. That's why I use multiple, because if all the indicators are saying the same thing, that this is a good entry, that's confluence. If we have multiple indicators telling us different things, we don't have confluence. And maybe it's not the best time. Some of the hardest thing to do as a trader is the patience, is the sitting on your hands and doing fuck all. And that's why, even just, talking about hyper earlier, to me, it's such an easy buy right now, because you just buy it and do fuck all with it. Put it in your wallet, forget about it. Talk to me in a few months after more products are delivered and Tully is more excited. Where will the price be? When the market starts to return again, same thing, right? What do we got? News event. Consumer sentiment. Well, how do you think the consumer sentiment is going to be in the US? Let's be honest. PMI. Not overly major events to affect the actual markets. And here's another thing. When you're looking at news, Google some of these who owns the news, and you'll see that some of these are owned by PR firms. And it's just market manipulation on top of it. We're all quite well aware of that, right? So we're looking for the curl to happen, money to come back into the space. Wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit more leave, maybe in here. But I also wouldn't be surprised if we start to turn. There's apparently some news with Trump coming up at the next, I don't know, I'm in Vietnam, so I don't know what the hours are, but I was going to talk about crypto again, and it can send money flying. Like, we can see how fast a green candle or a red candle happens. And like how much, just for checking, to top, $408 billion was injected in 3 days on that one candle, with a slight little bit of a pullback, and then more over the next candles. So it does happen. So understanding the money flow, if it's coming or going, is how we base our trades. So understanding that, then we get into the actual cryptos. And Bitcoin is the thermostat, right? So if we look at, and how I always, if you're looking at my screen now and going, holy shit, I usually zoom out, and each one of these, it's all Bitcoin, but it's all on different time frames. 1 week, 1 day, 4 hours, 1 hour, 30 minutes, 5 minutes. And we can see all of these indicators are going to be different on each time frame, but the understanding of how they work and applying them is all the same. Doesn't matter if we're looking at total market caps, doesn't matter if we're looking at individual tokens, and it doesn't matter on the time frame. But the importance of time frame is to understand momentum, movement, where things are going. This solid green line down here is the 200 EMA. Don't expect you to know it. I just know my indicators, right? Well, on a weekly, we're 55% above the 200 EMA. Am I scared about being bearish? No. If we were down in this area on the 200 EMA on the weekly, we're going to have a different conversation about a bull market and a bear market. But we're at the bottom of stochastic. We're at the bottom of Bollinger. Now, we have a consolidation box, and this is probably on a 3-day, this consolidation box. And we've broken into it. It didn't hold support here. And I bet you this is a 3-day consolidation box. Yes, it is. Right. And still well above the 200 EMA on a 3-day, and lower here on the stochastic. But let's go back to the week. And let's take off drawings. And let's have a look at the big picture. How does this chart, other than the recent candles for the weekly, look bearish? Higher low, higher low, higher high, higher high. Oh my God, there was retracement. The sky is falling. Everybody panic. Fuck no. We're well above the 200 EMA. We're still making higher highs and higher lows. Yeah, people took profits. No surprise. Imagine if you were holding from down here. If you were holding since, October 23, just quick and dirty, why the hell wouldn't you sell up here at 380% return? Smart money is going to take profits. They probably took profits all along the way. It makes sense. It's the data. Follow the data, not the emotion. Right? Now, if you're swing trading on shorter time frames and you went for a long, why the fuck are you longing at all-time highs? Makes no sense. Of course, we're going to have a pullback. So the question becomes, where are we going to pull back to? We need a micro bear because we need a micro bull afterwards. It would make sense if we retest these areas in here. And I've heard people say if we get into the 90,000 Bitcoins, it's over. Really? It's over? If we get below 74, now I'm starting to get concerned. But we got to remember, a pullback in Bitcoin is normal. Pulled back 31.37% there before it ripped 68. It's pulled back 19%. We look back at some of these other alts, or not alts, some of these other runs in past before it boomed again. Pulled back 54% before it ripped again. Still in this micro bear to this micro bear, higher low. It held this area of support and consolidation before it took off, right? Here we got a micro bear and it continued to go down. And then our indicators are telling us when the EMAs are spread pointing down, price action is going to go down. We didn't get a bullish cross here. It's telling us price action is going to fall. This was your bear market. This here was your confirmation of it. When it didn't hold here, this here was your confirmation right in here. Pointing down, didn't break the median, went under your 200 EMA, fought at resistance before we took off. We are, and that was, oh God, how long ago, right? We're still in good position. I mean, nobody likes if you're in the market and you've just been holding and you bought in the top. Nobody likes when that happens. And that's when the emotions come into play. Oh my God, panic, sell. We've all seen the psychology of the market, right? Until the data says otherwise, we can't argue it. So I'm not going to panic if Bitcoin gets down to 94,000. I'm not. It's looking like it's about to pinch to give us a micro bear. Look how long this micro bear lasted, 3 weeks. And when it happened, it was all green candles. We might get a micro bear after 3 days and 5 hours. If we get another red candle after this 3 days and 5 hours, this will signal to a micro bear. We'll get an EMA cross here. But I bet you we're going to probably consolidate in this area before we take off again, get the bullish cross and run. With all the news that's happening, with the adoption, the stuff going on in the bigger picture of the crypto market, to me, it doesn't make sense yet for the markets to crash. Right? So let's clean this up a bit. Let's look at all possibilities. We're on a weekly. Oh, that was 3-day time frame. Let's get back to the 3-day time frame. Let's hide the indicators. And then let's just look at it. Oh, this was from a stream back in earlier in the year. And you can go back in my YouTube videos at FAOFC. And I called the peak when we were in here in November. And I said 106,420. And I said for the culture. And it was funny how that became our resistance. We tried to flip it into support. It flipped there, held here, and then we've broken it through. I'm going to leave that one because it's always kind of been fun for me because I called that so long ago and it nailed it. And it's live recorded on YouTube. You can go back and find it. But let's look at consolidation. A lot of crypto is support, resistance, consolidation, right? Top of the wicks, top of the candle bodies, bottom here, resistance, resistance, becoming support. Right. Now, we can have another one right down here, right? You can move it to right here. We've had consolidation in here, support here, it's supporting here. TA is funny that way. There's so many different ways to cut it and look at it, right? And we can see that here's going to be resistance. It was resistance here, didn't get past it here, got wicks here. We got a parallel channel happening, 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch. Will we hold this level, consolidate in here, retest it, and break out? It's a good question. And this is, like I said, this is all just quick and dirty looking at it. But we know it's not just going to shoot up to an all-time high. Maybe, but the odds are unlikely. It's probably going to be steps. We might come down a little bit into this area, come back up, retest here, try to break out, come out, retest, come out to support resistance, come back, head back up to this resistance, come back down to this support, head back up. Very, very feasible, right? And this is just quick, dirty, and looking at it. But what I'm not seeing is a reason to panic. Why? Because if we want to look at another consolidation box, we can say, hey, price has been consolidating all in this level in here from 101 to the all-time high. And it's just been bouncing around in this box. I'm going to take it away just because it gets a little bit more clusterfuck and confusing. But you can start to see where the candle bodies are in these levels where it makes sense to go up and down. And this is zoomed out on a 3-day. So once we start to zoom in, like here's on a 1-day, we were hoping we were hoping, you know, like we said, we could come down to these levels. Well, we came down even more, but where did we come to? I can't remember when we drew this box, but we came right down to the bottom of it. I was hoping we were going to hit this level of support in here at 105, but we came all the way down on this box. I always try to look at best case scenario, which would have been this, and worst case scenario, which would have been the bottom of this box, which we talked about was a 21.9% consolidation region. Look where we came down to. And the fact that we're right back at it again, what are the indicators saying? We're still pointing down, but we're at the bottom of stochastic. We have a green out and a red out and a green in on Bollinger. That's a buy signal on Bollinger. This is a buy signal on stochastic. Support on the bottom of this consolidation box that who knows when we drew it. Looking like we're still pointing down for a little more sell pressure to mellow out. Just a bunch of garbage on that news. I'm hoping this makes sense. If you have questions, fire them away. Quan, holy shit. Good to see you, buddy. Hope I've been well. I have been well, buddy. I've been very well. Since you and I last talked, I'm in Southeast Asia. Loving it here. I have no complaints. I was just holidaying in Thailand. I'm based out of Da Nang now and still vacation a lot all over the world. Loving it. No complaints, brother. Good to see you. Long time no see. Quan and I have known each other for years. Nice to see your face. Nice to see you tuning in. Holy shit. Speaking of tuning in, there's just shy of 800 of you. I appreciate you guys being here. I do this now for HyperTek, which is streaming from their account as well. HyperonSol. I do this every Thursday, 6 p.m. UTC. We do a catch up with the CTO, the CEO, and then I get into what I'm seeing in the markets. So every week, again, Quan's been around the day since I used to do this 5 days a week. I'm going to be doing this at least once a week. And then, like I said, if you just tuned in, you can go to HyperonSol on X, join the Discord. I'm going to put analysis more regularly throughout the week in that Discord and some of the trades that I am getting into and things like that. So we've been talking about the money flow cycle, which is the total market cap, Bitcoin, which is your thermostat. Then the next thing I always like to look at is dominance. And dominance is what says, are we in an alt cycle or are we in a Bitcoin cycle? And for those that have followed for a long time, this channel has been here for years. And it's interesting to see that, and I didn't want to change the channel, so I didn't touch it. I added these lines to extend it. It's interesting to see that we're retesting right now that we bounced off this bottom of the channel from November 21st, 2022, all the way now to retest the zone right here. So same principles as I was talking about before is we want, in this case, if you're in alts, we want to see alts run. We want to see this curl down and then this start to fall and then really fall in this direction to trigger our alt cycle. I do believe it's coming, obviously, with all the news that's been going on with Trump tariffs and the fear in the markets. We've been seeing more money go into Bitcoin versus the alts. We've seen a little bit of pullback over, what are we on the 3 days? Let's zoom in on a daily here, see what it looks like. flirting with the 200 EMA, starting to curl at the top. 200 EMA right now showing a little bit of support, but ironically, this channel from, like I said, years ago is acting as resistance. That's exactly what we want to see. It sucks when it bounces up that high, but we can see how fast it pulls back down from these lines. It did not retest here back in October, which is good. If this would have retested here and bounced back up, there'd be a hell of a lot more pain in the markets now than what we're seeing. So all in all, happy to see what's going on with the dominance in the current market situation and things like that. It is 3 a.m. my time, so I'm going to skip ETH. Has been a little bit of a nightmare. I won't skip it. Let's get on the daily. We talked about it. What we did say when we talked about it last was we had a wedge forming, and wedges need to retest before it can break out. It broke out. It wasn't able to retest. It broke out, came right back down to where we were, tried it again, and then just plummeted. ETH's been having a hard go of it. It looked like it's finding support from way back here in August. The wedge did break out for a little bit. I mean, if you did take this trade when we talked about it, you could have made some profit if it was a quick swing. If it was a perfect, you never time the bottoms and the tops, as we know, would have been 12%. Let's clean this up a bit and see what's going on with ETH. Let's zoom out a bit on the 3-day. So we can see in here we have some support and resistance, some consolidation. We can throw a rectangle in here in this area. Right. Broke out, didn't hold it. Resistance, and this is quick and dirty. Support, resistance. I mean, we can zoom in and get better, but this is just more for the point of argument of what's happening. That was obviously on a lower time frame. Came right down, kissed this area, which were the wicks, and then in this area a bit. It needs to get out of here and go, or there's going to be some more pain for Ethereum. Man, actually, Ethereum's looking ugly. One, two, did not hold this retest, came right back in, tried to break out again, could not hit it. Now we're back into here. I could see some pain for ETH. What are the indicators saying? I can straight down in a buy. It's a weird one. This is where we don't have confluence. We don't have a red out, a green in on Bollinger for an entry to buy. Our EMAs are pointing straight down, and we're at the bottom of stochastic. Now, remember, we can be at the bottom of stochastic for a while. Here's a prime example. It's all at the bottom here, and the price just can continue to fall. And that's why I always say the EMA cross, my micro bear, micro bull, the EMA cross is boss. Because if you don't have a belly and a turnaround, it just typically means more pain. And we don't have critical fear firing. So I see more pain for ETH in the near future. News on ETH? No, it's all the same news that was from before. These are just pointing straight down. So we need, if your EMA cross if these are pointing straight down and they're wide, it just means more downward pressure and price. It needs to find its support before it can turn around, get a bullish cross, and start to retest these all-time highs. Will happen eventually. Right now, just it's contradictory. But I'm thinking there's more pain for ETH before we see a turnaround. If I had to haphazard a guess, oh Jesus. This is obviously on a different time frame. Let's get rid of that. Funny that white line goes to the bottom of this box. Resistance, 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 support. ETH really needs to hold the support at 2,800. Otherwise, it could be a situation like this where this big nasty wick, the nasty wick, nasty wick. If it doesn't hold the bottom of this box here, I see way more pain for ETH. I'd like to see it hold, curl, and go from there. But remember, news can turn this around at any given time. Would I be entering ETH right now? No. Do I have ETH? Not much. I sold my ETH a while ago, and I wouldn't be looking to get back in. It has been retesting the 200 EMA. Like, look at that wick bouncing right down to it. So I could see realistically, I could see it retesting the 200 EMA. I could see it getting, if I had to put some entries or some buys, I'd probably put some at 3058 and then some at 2776 and then hope for the turnaround. That's my 2 cents on ETH. I used to love ETH. It's been tough. Sorry if I'm, like I said, it's almost 3:15 in the morning and brain is turning. Let's have a quick look at Sol before we call it quits. And if I have the energy, I've been asked to do Aster, and I don't have Aster marked up, so I can start from scratch and show you how I look at a token from scratch. So Sol, this is probably notes from our last time. Is that on the weekly? No. It was on the 3-day. Let's clean it up a bit. Just start from scratch. So you'll, and I normally don't do that. I like to keep my old notes in and leave it long term. But I have had a lot of people ask me to share from scratch. And my goal with doing this on Thursdays is to help educate and share what I'm seeing. Once again, if you do have questions, hit them in the comments for however you're watching. There's 852 of you, so I'm clearly not boring you at the moment. Appreciate you for tuning in. I always have over the years I've done this. We have a parallel channel, an ugly one, heading down there. Our EMA is still pointing to the downside, indicating more downward pressure. Like I said, we want to see that belly, that curl. And we're not seeing that yet. And that is because there has been some fear in the markets. And we were at all-time high. How long ago? Well, of course, my shit's in the way. January? Was it really that long ago? Didn't feel that long ago. Let's zoom out on the weekly. Let's have a look at this from scratch. We're still making higher lows since March. We do want to see that curl, like I said, to maintain bullish momentum. We definitely on the weekly we can go from here to candle bodies, from there to there on the weekly. We can see we've been consolidating. For the most part, price action has been in this box minus a few extremities. Could we retest the bottom of this box? Maybe. That's where the money flow cycle is going to come in. If money keeps leaving the crypto market, absolutely we would retest it, and that would be $128. We would definitely want to see that turn into support again to turn around, or we would be looking at these lower levels at 97, in my opinion. But like I said, I'm not all doom and gloom right now. I think there's lots of positives in the market. We have no reason to believe we're going to go down to these lower levels yet, by any means. Just checking if there's any questions. There's not. All right, let's zoom in more on the 3-day. One touch, two touch on the parallel channel. We need to turn around, come up, retest it. It's fighting the median. We'd like to see that get above this median line here, where it hugged it all the way down here. Like to see it retest that median before we can curl and turn around the other direction. What is our stochastic saying? We're in a buy zone. But remember, buy zones for stochastic can be a while. We don't have a red out, green in on Bollinger Bands. And here's the other thing. You're never going to time the bottoms. You're never going to time the tops. We want to get in the middles of those. Like if we zoomed in, say, on a 15-minute, this is where you can really see the bellies and the curls that I'm talking about. The red out, green in as an entry, and red out, green in, entry, and then, here would have been an exit. We're starting to curl. I would have definitely, if let's just say we split the bottom here, starting to curl here, a green out and a red in, 2.58%, 4 hours. I would have taken that. And then it just ripped again. So no one and we're at the top of stochastic. No one indicator is perfect, and there'll be ebbs and flows, but you can see these bellies and these curls that I'm talking about. Here is a belly of a micro bear, and we're coming into a pinch point on the 15 minutes. If I was swing trading this, this would have been a great entry right around here right now. Whoa, my mouse jumped there. Right now we have a wedge coming down in that area, coming up to with that wedge, looking like it wants to form a micro bull, and then get back to retest these areas on here. We could see a little bit of a pump, but we are at the top here as well. But you can see how these theories play out on smaller time frames, but don't get drunk on the smaller time frames. Understand the direction of the movement on the larger ones. Interesting. 5 minutes. 5 minutes on SOL looks nice for reading these theories. 1.8 in an hour and 10 minutes. Not bad for an hour and 10 minutes work. And the thing about these bigger and OG tokens is they have high market cap. So if you're swinging, $10, $20, $100,000, you're not affecting the value of the price and the market cap. $25 to $50 million swinging in Bitcoin doesn't even affect the price of Bitcoin. $10, $20, $50,000 in Solana swinging isn't going to affect the price of Solana. And if you're making, these percentages in short periods of time on that kind of money, you're doing all right. It's a good day's work in a short period of time. Question, Crypto Joe's, how does this ETF for SOL doesn't change much or not that I see with SOL? ETFs are interesting. They don't usually typically affect the price right away. It's more of a long-term thing. Sometimes there might be, with the speculation of it, pumps and dumps, buy the rumor, sell the news. It's definitely more of a long-term thing. I just saw some news that Charles Schwab is about to enter the crypto market, and they're going to have, I guess, maybe their own marketplace. Sorry, it's like almost 3:30. I'm trying to remember everything. But Charles Schwab is, massive in the Web2 financial world. They're getting into crypto and wanting to bring a lot, and they're going to be bringing ETFs as well. In the long term, that's bullish. It'll be tough to measure how that actually affects it on a time frame of like 5 minutes. That is a tough call to see. Where were we at before on the 3-day? Yeah, so we'll be curious to see what that looks like on a 3-day. We are in a lower stochastic here, a red out, green in, which typically summarizes a buy situation. Starting to do a little bit of a curl here, not pointing directly down on the EMAs here. Whereas if you see how it's pointing down, this green and this purple line, let's get rid of some of this stuff. Let's get rid of Bollinger Bands. We can see how this is pointing straight down. Price action follows down. The further they get apart, the more down they're facing is typically the more volatile of the price action. And that's true in the other direction. You can see they spread apart. The further they're apart, the more up it goes. Look at these curls. Look at these bellies. Just understanding some of these basic concepts will make you a better trader. But don't ever go all in. Dollar cost average your entries. Have a few entries. Be prepared for if you're zoomed in on the lower time frames. Don't get lost in the sauce. Candles can move quickly on the lower time frames. Like right now, we can see. The stochastic on 4 hours is heading towards the downside. EMAs are starting to point a little to the down. We may retest this area of price action in here, look for a little consolidation before we turn. But if we zoom in on the 30 minutes, it is looking like it wants to turn. And that's where getting lost in the time frames can confuse a lot of newer traders. Let's do this quickly. Let's create a new layout. Oh, how's my internet at the moment? Let's grab some Aster. So what I like to do when I see and this is a new token, it went from its bottom to its top, starting to mellow out, trying to find a bottom price on a 3-day. Some support. Looks like it's finding it in this around $1 price point. If we zoom in on a daily, remember on a newer token, it is more difficult, but we can see we have a wedge, and we need that retest before it bounces. It is a CZ thing. I think manipulation from CZ will be heavy. He'll always try to keep the price going. So what I like to do is let's turn this into, oops, can I undo that? Let's add my indicator template to it first. Then let's get this into 6 different screens. I like to do this one on a 3-day, 1 day, 4 hour, 1 hour, 30 minutes, and then 5. And that's typically how I like to view what's happening with the token. My indicator's not. So prime example here, oops. We can see this, it's starting to mellow. The EMAs are pointing level. So we are seeing this consolidation in this area, which of a gap would be, let's measure this. Yeah, that's a 37% swing in this consolidation box. I was talking to a few people today that this could be a nice swinging token. If you want to swing on lower time frames, you want to find tokens that have this nice, W where you can get in, get out, get in, get out, or you can reverse, you can short here, long here, all that kind of thing. But the art of swing trading is finding something on a lower time frame that has these nice ebbs and flows. I'm making more mistakes because I'm tired. These ebbs and flows where we're getting bottom of the Bollinger, top of like these clear indicators of buys and sells and confluence. And you're getting these nice 6%, 11% critical fear fire. This would probably be a good entry for Aster at the moment, roughly somewhere in here. And then I'd be looking to get out right there and support resistance. It's probably going to bounce. Actually, I'd probably even take a little less. It's probably on the 15-minute going to bounce off this 200 EMA as rejection. What's it look like on the 5s? Let me clean this up. I mean, just the theory of confluence, at the bottom, belly, and let's just say you didn't time the bottom well. You got in here, red, green out. You didn't time the top perfectly. You got out there, 40 minutes, 1.15%. That's huge for 40 minutes. People might not think 1% is a lot, but when you do 1% multiple trades in a day, 2.94 there, it's healthy. It's very healthy. It's definitely looking like if I was to put a bid in, looks like we have consolidation in this area, and it's trying to hold this as support right now, coming down to a buy. I'll put more of this in the Discord coming up and how it relates to market flow. And I've been talking to a few other traders. Sorry, trying to find where you all went. And we're gonna look at some tokens together and share our setups and stuff like that in the Discord. So looking forward to when that happens in the near future. Here is, like I said, a value add that I can do for the HyperTek community. There's 900 of you. Wow. Again, every Thursday, I'm going to do this live at 6 p.m. UTC. We're going to go over what's happening with HyperOnSol, HyperTek, a week in review with the CEO and the CTOs. Sometimes we have guests that are using the tools and they come on the stream and share their experience. And then I'll go into more of the market review. But I would like to thank all of you for coming. Hopefully see you in the Discord. You can get that link in our link tree on HyperOnSol on Twitter. You want to find me there before next Thursday. If you want to wait until next Thursday, I will see you here at 6 p.m. UTC, where we will go all over this again. I wish you happy trades and everything well. I'm going to call it a night. It's 3:30 in the morning here, people. Thanks again. I'm always shocked at the numbers when I see them. And the numbers are always lower when the market is scary. Remember, we buy fear and we sell greed. Now is a great time to get into a lot of projects. And sometimes the best trade is just sitting on your hands and, just riding it through it. There are a few traders that are going to be in the Discord, and we'll share some of these shorter trades. But if you're looking for some great opportunity, there's lots right now in the market, but I'd be looking at HyperTek, which you can get the contract address from the link tree, and just sit on your hands for a while and take it easy. Good night, GN. Great stream. Thank you very much, Crypto Warrior. And yeah, I will definitely see you in the Discord, like you said there. So once again, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Either see you in the Discord this week, or I'll see you here next Thursday. Peace out.